Welcome back to another episode of Reel Chums, where chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me is my co-host, Danny.
This week we're discussing the 2013 film Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder, with screenplays by David S. Goyer, story by Goyer and Christopher Nolan, starring Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Kevin Costner, Russell Crowe, and Diane Lane.
I was going to continue to add more names to this. That way
and just keep going and see how long until I go. I sure felt that way. Can we just talk about, for a quick second, this freaking movie was stacked.
Super stacked. I mean...
I forget. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. This last time when Lawrence Fishburne came on as Perry White, I was like, that's right. He's so good in this.
He's so good. Oh, man. This movie is... I'm so excited to be just discussing it, especially with Flash coming right up around the corner.
Yeah. So we're coming up on its 10-year anniversary release. So...
Big deal.
Big deal. And I've been low-key... I think one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast with you was to talk about this movie.
It only took 16 episodes.
No, I think just mainly, we'll get into it, but like, I think whether you like this movie or not, there's a lot of strong opinions out there.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about it in a safe space where no one's going to come at me for either liking it or not liking it.
Yes, I think it's fair.
So
this is a safe space for you to talk and for me to talk and for you to send us a message.
Yes, let us know.
Okay, question of the day. Out of all the Superman superhero or supervillains, which supervillain would you love to see on screen?
Brainiac.
Oh, yes!
I've been waiting for Brainiac, man.
A good Brainiac.
A good Brainiac. Well, I mean, we haven't really had one on like movies in film. We've had them like in
TV
and whatnot.
Brainiac would be killer.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you've ever read the is it J.J. Abrams script that he wrote like in 2000 or maybe it was like 2001. Anyways, he was originally going to do Superman. It was titled Superman Flyby, and it was like it was a trilogy.
Is this the Nicolas Cage?
No, that's Tim Burton's Batman,
that's
Superman.
Right. That's right.
But in that one, yeah, actually the villain was I think it was villain or Brainiac in that one. But
I didn't know it.
It's interesting. I was reading the script, the Superman Flyby by J.J. Abrams. It could have been. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
where do you read your scripts?
I just look them up online.
You just look at them online. Have you heard of the Blacklist?
No. Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, like the blacklist that Hollywood has for like movies that aren't.
Yes.
Produced. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to these scripts.
Yeah.
Yep. That you don't know about that. That's a great resource if you want to like study up on scripts. Also, yeah, like there are scripts available for people. That's something that like they didn't talk about in college. Like I went to a degree. I got a digital media degree, and I don't even when people. I don't know how often people are like going in and trying to find scripts, but they're available.
They're available, yeah, and
highly, beneficial to like read through. Because like, I often when I write scripts, like I don't write very often, and part of it is because I think my brain is so wired as like a
visual,
like director, editor, right, or a producer, director, editor, not like not as a writer.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because like a lot of films actually don't have a ton of like at least from the scripts that I've read, don't have a lot of like they don't have what do they call it, the description portion, or like it's a lot of it's just dialogue back and forth. They set the area and they have a little bit of context, but then the rest of it is just like dialogue because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's it's a reminder. Really what it comes down to, it's a reminder of how much the filmmaking process can be shaped by the writer, then the director, then the editor. Directors and actors, studio budget, as well as post-production, and like that whole, like it's literally a huge just thing of like trying, like that's why I really love writer directors, because they get to then put what they've already written to life. Not to say that like other options aren't good, but there is that like it's not originality, but like the like love of the craft is like then carried over by that same person.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Right. Like I don't what is it?
It's that ability to just like from inception to creation to like visualization, and it's all owned by an individual, right? Last week we talked about Come On,
yeah.
and I was listening to an interview by Mike Mills because he wrote and directed that, and he was talking about like how hard it is for him to be a writer and director.
Yeah.
Because, and he was saying, he's like, you know, when I'm just a director, I'm bouncing ideas off of the writer, and he's bouncing, or he or she is bouncing ideas off of me, and then we together come to a cohesive direction of what we want. But when it's just me, he's like, I think it sounds good on paper, but then when I put it on screen, then he at least for him, he says he's always second guessing himself. But you know, I think there is something powerful about a writer director, right?
I just think there's something powerful about the filmmaking. It's like literally, if we don't get something written, and if you're not writing something and you're not then shooting something and then not editing something and not delivering something, you're not growing, because like just doing one part does not mean that you've completed.
Yeah.
Because films are rewrites. Literally every single portion is a rewrite, because it, you know, like whether that be handed off to a director, they have a whole portion. Anyways, sorry, real long side note.
Well, but that's part of the problem right now we're seeing with the writer's strike, right? Is that everything is on hold, because when you submit a script, that doesn't mean it's done. There's still rewrites happening on set, and that's why all these movies and TV shows have paused, because they can't continue.
No, and I think like we're week, I think 3.
I think we're like at
4?
Week 4 now.
Yeah. Anyways, we're like the writer's strike is still happening, and more importantly, like writing is so important for like the setup. And I think the movie that we're gonna discuss with the Man of Steel, there are some lines in here that definitely are not some of the best. I mean, I remember I was watching last night and I was like, ooh, that was like subpar. But you know what it is that the acting then brings it home.
Okay.
Like the commitment of the actors, the commitment of like the scale of this film for like this, like for their world, brings home some of the like somewhat crappy, cheesy lines. Anyways.
What's your answer though? What villain do you want to see?
I would love to see Doomsday. Well, we did get Doomsday. I think I wanted a different Doomsday.
Yeah, I think we all wanted a different Doomsday.
Yeah, we did. There's the purple guy. I can never remember. In Superman the animated series, there was like this purple guy.
Parasite.
Yeah. I think Parasite would be
Parasite would be really good.
I forget how much I love Superman, because I don't know what, because Batman's freaking Bamf. And but Superman, I don't know. There's something about Superman that just as an immigrant,
yeah,
I think I connect with, and I always like it. It's weird, but I do forget it, because like you kind of like when everyone thinks of Superman, you think of an all-American hero, but he's not.
Superman is the all-time immigrant.
All-time immigrant.
Yeah, we forget that, and
yeah.
I think that's why I love Superman. We're gonna get into this. Let's jump into it.
We'll get into it.
Look, like he's great. A couple of years ago, it was the 100-year anniversary. I did a very touching tribute on Instagram about Superman and like why he's my favorite like comic book character, and I think that can be a cop out for a lot of people. Like, okay, Superman, but like, no, I think that there's such a unique growth to the character as the ultimate immigrant, and what it means for him to assimilate and integrate into a culture, into a society, to love it, to protect it, but continue to maintain his own roots, right?
His own roots, like that he looks and he sees the ultimate the blessings of coming to this to have the blessings of the country, but yet realize that something could be better. You know, have you seen is it Justice League Gods and Monsters? It's like an alternate version of the DC superheroes.
I think I have.
Superman actually gets picked up by Mexican immigrants in that one. and he has a very different. He does not. He kills.
Okay.
He doesn't like. There's definitely a more of a like. The way he grew up is is different. And I don't know. It's just like because of like what he saw as like an actual like a Mexican immigrant. Versus like a white, immigrant, which neither here nor there. It's just, but like I think it's like it's interesting. And then we have Red Son. If you read Red Son, one of the best all time comics ever. If you haven't read it, definitely check it out. Again, I think all of it just like he is the ultimate immigrant, and I think what I've always kind of cherished or like loved about Superman is his perspective of like life. His like what his moral code, what his like, and figuring out what that means for him.
Yeah, and what it means to him and how he goes about sticking to that code, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Because there's many times where he's challenged, where his morals and values are challenged, and we see that a lot in this movie.
Oh, I was about to say, I was like, this movie nails that.
Yeah. And it's great to see how his approach and the internal struggle about it, and committing to those values. But yeah, I love Superman, man.
Me too. Let's talk about the fact that this was like the reboot. This, I mean, like did you do the research on what the breakdown between the last Superman movie and the Superman of how many years?
Yeah, so the previous one was Superman Returns, directed by I just forgot his name.
Yeah,
from the X-Men movies, and started Brandon Routh. I think that came out in 2005.
That does sound right.
Yeah, I think 2005.
Yeah,
and then this came out 2013. So you've got a 8 year. 8 year?
Yeah.
8 year
and
breakdown.
then I would say even before, with Superman Returns, there was like even a bigger.
Yeah, so even before, I mean, the last one was 78?
I think so. Something like that, yeah.
And not just that, but like you had, again, we talked about this, you had J.J. Abrams try to write one in the early 2000s, Superman Flyby. You had Tim Burton, who also tried to write one in the late 90s. Got into production. Pre-production and set design and everything. You also had in 2007, so after Superman Returns, you had George Miller, who wanted to do the Justice League. Okay. And that movie also got into pre-production, costume fitting, very close, and then part of that writer's strike
shut it down.
And then you've had so many attempts at getting Superman, and then in this case, then obviously the success of Christopher Nolan, David Goyer gave them that kind of push and confidence in the studio to try it again.
I think. Do you feel that the reboot of Superman or the attempt to like bring Superman to the main screen is harder? Do you feel like it's harder to bring Superman to film?
Yes.
What is it about Superman?
I think if I were to write a Superman, yes, we've talked about like the values, the humanity of this alien character, right? That we can all relate to. But when you get to the action, to the deeper analysis of it, how do you write a character that is essentially invulnerable, right?
Yeah.
How do you give him those conflicts, not emotional conflicts, but also physical conflicts that keeps an audience engaged and wanting to see their growth? It's very different from when you see it in a comic book, and you can get away with certain elements. But when you're adapting a comic book, and putting it into live action, that's where it gets challenging.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think that it's definitely, that has a huge aspect to it.
And if you look even like at Bryan Singer, Superman Returns, right?
Yeah.
That's a very, like, that's a slow burner. Like that movie,
it
like
is
really
slow
focus on the human emotional aspect of the character. Excuse me. And it's got some good moments, and
Yeah.
this conflict of him leaving Earth and leaving Lois behind, coming back to see how she has progressed and moved on without him. And not just him, but how Earth as a whole has moved on without Superman. And I think that's such a unique element. But that was a slow movie. And not only was it slow, but like it lacked the action sequences, in my opinion.
It lacked the wow.
Yeah.
You got a good point. I think this is why Superman, they've tended to stick to television, because they can do minimal action, add more human conflict or struggles.
Yeah.
And people are committed because they love the character of Superman.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't watched any of Superman and Lois.
I've seen the first season.
Did you like it?
I actually liked it. I liked it because this is a Superman that's married, has kids. He's in a much different phase of his life, and so we're seeing a character that's very, I don't want to say very different to the comic books, but he's in a different stage in his life, and that's where that humanity and that emotional struggle comes into play. So I really like that. I haven't seen season 2, or I think they're in 3 now.
I think they're on 3. I know that a lot of people. I haven't watched it. I think part of it's just because, I just like it's part of the Arrowverse. I think those shows are a little. I know they can, it's TV, but like they really tried to do the best they could, and they've done a really pretty good job. And there's a huge fan base for those shows. It sucks. I mean, it's television, so they have a different budget, and so like there's that. But I feel like they've done a really phenomenal job, and I'm a little sad that I haven't watched it because, there was an old show with Kent and Lois, I think. Yeah. That was like more like sitcom-y.
Superman and Lois.
Oh yeah,
that's what it was.
Anyways, super. Anyways, but it's funny because they've tried to reboot it so many times with TV shows, and I don't know if it's because like he is Superman, so as like a superhero, he's always going to try to he's gonna find a way to beat he fights pretty strong villains or villains that are like impacting. He's trying to balance like not just completely destroying, which is something in this movie just really I wanted to get into, but it's the humanity. It's the fact that like he's still just, even though he's an immigrant, he still battles very similar struggles that we as just real peasants,
real peasants, real mortals,
deal with, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know.
Did you watch this one like in theaters when it came out?
Oh, I sure did.
Yeah. Okay.
It was phenomenal.
What do you remember? Like, what was that experience for you?
I remember being super pumped for Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
I thought spot on casting, in my opinion. I feel like the voice, I think persona wise, he did a phenomenal job. I actually I remember thinking how much of a different like start to a superhero film. Like, I was thinking that maybe they would go with some of the like Superman animated series kind of, or like comic book like things. And the more I've watched it, I've really appreciated that they didn't. They took their own little take, and they brought him as like a person who's lost. And I remember thinking that I'm like, oh man, he's just like he's just traveling, trying to figure out life, figuring out what to do, where he fits, and more important, I just remember thinking, how does a freaking city come back from this giant battle? This is wild.
It was massive destruction.
Like, and watching it in theaters was crazy.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Like, just thinking like, yo, it makes sense. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is really what freaking a battling Superman would be like. Like, if you had two Supermen battling each other, like, there would be like all of it.
And one of them doesn't even care. He just wants to destroy you, right? Like,
right.
He's not going to be like, hey, let's fly out to the desert and
No.
like, let's battle this out, right?
No. Like, probably like, it was like 35 buildings just got demolished
At least, man.
You know how, like, I mean, I just think about, I think, like, I think about 9/11, like, with all those things down. Like, I know maybe some people don't like some of this, but I really love Lawrence Fishburne. There's some moments in like the newspaper office that I'm like, they should have left their building earlier.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? Why are they just leaving now? But I think what I appreciated now more than I did back when I first watched it, it was like Superman just freaking going ham. Like, this is insane. And now I feel like I really appreciate the small little like human touches.
Yes. Yes. So when I first watched it, I saw it in theaters opening night, and it was such a fun experience in the sense that, like, even that last scene when he snaps his neck, dude. You know those moments like when you're in theaters and like you're all like in the same journey,
Yes.
like Avengers when he picks up when Captain America picks up the hammer, right?
Thor's
like
hammer.
Everyone was like, we were all in it together.
I missed that so
right?
much.
This was one of those opportunities. This is one of those moments where, I kid you not, at least my showing,
No, I remember.
you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
When he snapped that, and like there were a couple people in the audience where you just heard them go, like, gasp, like, oh, he did that, and you could hear a pin drop. We were all shocked by it.
That scene, watching it again, even today or last night when I watched it, I hold my breath.
Yeah.
It's because you don't know Superman. No Superman. In the comics, I feel like, to me, I feel like what they did, what Zack Snyder brought to film, what Goyer brought to the screenplay was needed. It needed to happen for us to understand Superman as like he made a decision to say, I don't want this world to be destroyed, but I also don't want to be that bad guy. But there was no other option, and it was like he went there, right? And I think, to me, like, that is, it doesn't happen much anymore.
No, we've talked about this with other Marvel movies.
In our lost episode.
In our lost episode.
Of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. But like, even we've talked about it with Ant-Man, like, there was too much of a safety net with Ant-Man, right? Like, you're not pushing your characters to their fullest, to a breaking point, right? Whereas here, we took Superman there.
Yeah.
And he broke in the sense that he had to snap him in order to save a family, in order for him to stick to what he felt was morally right.
Yes.
Right? And I love the scene earlier. I love that we get Superman's like childhood through flashbacks.
Yes.
I love that aspect.
I do too.
But there's the scene where he's getting bullied like at a junkyard, right? And the police are at him, and they look back, the dad's there, they walk away, and Jonathan Kent comes over and says, like, are you okay? You know they can't hurt me. That's not what I mean.
Yes.
Like, are you fine? Right? And there's something that Jonathan Kent says. He's like, did I write it down?
I should have wrote it down. I think he says something to the fact that
he says something along the lines of like,
whether you're good or whether you're bad, right now, like, what you choose will impact.
Yeah, like you have to choose what kind of man you're going to be, whether that's good or bad, and whoever you choose to grow up to be, is going to have major implications on this world, right?
Yes. Dude,
Kevin Costner is great.
Dude,
I forgot.
He's I love...
Excuse me, I'm still recovering.
He's a recovering cougher.
I am still recovering from being sick. Sorry.
No, you're fine, dude. Costner as Kent, as
inspired.
Dude, inspired. Costner, there's something about his voice. There's something about his series. I truly love The Guardian. It's got Ashton Kutcher, Kevin Costner, and they're the Coast Guard. I freaking will. Also, a movie that I'll cry every single time in.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen The Guardian?
Your reaction.
I'm shook, dude.
I know of it.
You've never seen The Guardian?
I've never seen
it. We're gonna stop this podcast right now.
We're gonna go watch it and come back. Look. For me, I
gotta recover. No, let's go.
I love Kevin Costner, and your Guardian your feelings towards the Guardian about Kevin Costner is mine with Dream of Fields.
Yeah, okay, great. Also a great movie.
I cry every time with Dream of Fields.
Yes,
like that's a good Father's Day movie.
Oh yeah.
But he's so great and so believable as Jonathan Kent.
He you know what it is? I think that Costner. He brings a performance that is sincere. Mm-hmm. He's sincere. And not only that, but just the way he interacts with the young Kent.
With the young Kent, yeah.
With Clark, young Clark, right? It is just
because we only see him interact once with Henry Cavill.
Yes,
which is during the tornado scene.
Yes.
Everything else is with younger Clark, and he is so good at just being that father figure. And I don't know, I look at him, I'm like, yeah, this is a father. This is a man who has these concerns about what's going to happen when the world finds out about you.
Yeah.
Right. And wanting to protect him, but has this internal conflict that he's meant for something greater. I'm just not sure that I'm ready for the world to know that.
Yeah, this is the quote. You're not just anyone. One day you're going to have to make a choice. You have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be. Whatever the man is, good character or bad, it's going to change the world.
Yeah.
Some people might argue that this movie was just too big right at the gate.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Some people might say it was just a freaking smashing fest. And but I think that this quote is the quote that determines is the one line that helps encapsulate the film.
Yeah.
You look at Zod and you look at Clark, right? And that's the two sides of the coin, right? Zod says he's I was bred.
Mm-hmm. I was biologically engineered for this, right?
Yeah, I have no moral code,
no other purpose,
and my people are gone.
Yeah,
he has nothing left for that. And to me, there's something I've debated with this film whether they made the right choice bringing General Zod in the first one and causing such havoc, or if it was truly it had to be these level of stakes for it for us to feel an emotion for Superman, for Clark to feel an emotional struggle.
Yeah.
For the scene when he kills Zod.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think the more I watch this film, when I rewatch it, this movie is rewatchable, and you get more and more things, and more do I realize, I want the characters, whether that be in the first one or whether that be in the third one, I want the arc for me to feel like they've come to a point where they're making one of the biggest decisions that shapes who they are for the rest of for who they are as characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Rocket in Guardian of the Galaxy, they did that with that, and with Quill.
Yeah, yeah.
In that one, okay. I think we didn't get that with Iron Man in the sense of his trilogy, but we got that with the end of the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
Is it the same? It's just a different way of doing it, but I think that's the reason why it was so impactful for us.
This is why listeners and viewers, tune in next week. Next week, we're doing a full breakdown of Warner Brothers and the DCEU. And what went well, what went wrong, how did we end up to this point where it's getting rebooted? But so listen in. But this is where I'm struggling. This is where I continue to struggle with this adaptation, is that we didn't get that that 3-story arc.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because yes, I agree with people, like, this Superman isn't the Superman that he's a bit more brooding, right? He's struggling. He's having those internal struggles, which is fine. I think there was intentions to eventually get to, whether that was in a Man of Steel sequel, a proper sequel, not a Batman versus Superman movie, and then maybe even in a third movie, this getting that growth that we see in like a Rocket or a Peter Quill. There's just so much untapped and untouched potential here that we didn't get.
Yeah.
And not that this movie, that's I love watching this movie because there's so many seeds that were planted. We get those payoffs. We get Clark and Superman's growth and his understanding, but there was so much more still that would have been fleshed out in other movies had Warner Brothers not rushed. And we'll talk about this next week.
Yeah.
Had they not rushed to force a Justice League movie.
I mean, not only that, but they didn't look at this as like an actual universe. They just wanted to make the films. We as the society actually made it DCEU. Execs.
Yes and no. And we'll talk about it next week.
We'll talk about it next week.
We've got a lot of details. But anyway, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about that that prologue on Krypton.
Oh,
dude, I love it. I love it. Nothing, but here's the thing. Nothing makes sense. Like, you have this society that, like, they live off of, it's very, like, nature, like, inspired organic architecture and technology, but, like, still, like, you have that pinpoint art where you see, like, how they tell their stories, or even, like, the little robot that tells Jor-El everything. Yet, like, it's all organic, and, like, if I want to go to the movies or get anywhere, I have to get Haraka to, like, his dragonfly buddy to, like, fly me anywhere. Like, it's a society that's just, it's bonkers. It's beautiful. I'm all for it, and I would love just a Krypton movie in this universe. Like, I would love a Jor-El movie.
Dude, Russell Crowe,
incredible.
Nailed the here's what I love about this film. I just truly appreciate that they decided to go with something unique.
Yeah.
We get the same, like we get in the comic books and in the TV show, in the animated series. It's always like they're an advanced society, but they're trying to save this child, and they're going. I love the fact that, like, there's this, that we get the fact that it's like every person was engineered for a purpose. I love that like, as a society, they've lost their way, and there's like the, like, nature versus nurture, and
just agency, right?
Agency.
They've lost that.
Yeah, and like that, like what comes from that, because like they can't. Jor-El's like, you've lost your way, and our world's gonna die, and you can't see it.
Mm-hmm. And again, something I've always loved about all Superman stories is just this advanced race, but the stupid bureaucrats that it's their choice why this society is at its end, right? Like,
yes.
They're dumb, they're stupid, and just the boggling of bureaucracy that leads to its demise.
I mean, literally, like, that whole sequence, I forget. Every single time I watch this film, I get caught up in, like, Clark's arc, his story, his, like, his brooding, trying to figure out what the heck he's trying to do with his life. And his guilt from, like, wanting to do something but not saving his dad.
Yeah.
But it opens. It's like 20 minutes.
It's a solid. Yeah, it's like a solid 20-25 minutes.
It's a full, like, it's like a prologue, in the sense that it's like it's part of that movie. Like,
oh yeah, and I know I think a lot of people didn't criticize that scene. Like, where's Superman? Like, what are we doing here? No, I love it,
dude. It was. I forgot about the freaking flying. Is like, I love when he takes off his arm.
And like,
I know.
like I love Haraka, man.
Dude, he's so good. I love that he goes to like the like genetic tubes and he's going to go find the codex. Freaking, he takes off his suit. He's got the black.
He's got the
suit,
1C on,
and then he jumps in. He comes out and he's just freaking explosion. Jumping off the side. Haraka comes and gets him, but he's all damaged. And he's like, "No, it's gonna be okay."
But and going back to that concept of like a society that has just been, you know, engineered for a purpose, right? You need a scientist, so here comes Jor-El, right?
Yeah.
Jor-El's dad was, who knows what he was, but hey, you know what? We need a scientist. Your son's going to be a scientist. Boom, here you go, right? I love the fact that, which is, I think, in my mind, the reason why like Jor-El gets away with everything is that he took time throughout his life to learn how to fight. Like he was born to be a scientist, not be a combat fighter. Yet he knows how because of his choice, his ability to use his agency and learn and be something more than what he was created for.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think like that's why, like in my opinion, my headcanon, when he just pulls out the guns and he's taking out the soldiers, I think people are caught off guard by that because he's not. That's not what he was designed to be.
And why they didn't go in shooting?
Yeah.
You know, like and like. Because they're a society that you're gonna listen. They're gonna try to. If General Zack comes in and they say, "Come in and give me this thing," they're going to do it. Yeah. Because they're like, well, I'm gonna obey. I'm gonna whatever. There is no like, hey, no, there's a better way. No, Jor-El and his wife. I can't remember her name. Anyways, but Lara. Just that sequence. I think to me, it just does a wonderful job at setting, because like I think what other Superman films have done poorly is set up the like who they were. We get like in like the original Superman with Christopher Reeves. We get Superman and he's got the his Fortress of Solitude, and he connects with his family. And we know that like he learns a lot about his family, but like oftentimes it's not something that like is portrayed a ton in the sense of like comic book understanding. And I think that's like they realize that this is an opportunity for them to like shape who his parents were, and then so that when he does go and discover them, that he can see that they were good people just like his father and mother on Earth were.
Yeah, and it also gives us that opportunity. I think, there's lots of skits about this, about the fact that why didn't Jor-El and Lara get on the ship and go with him, right? And I love Jor-El's explanation. Like, we are a product of a failed society.
Yes.
Right? Like, in order for, just as I am as much as your mother is, right? Like, in order for our legacy to continue, our society to thrive, like, we had to stay.
Yeah.
Like we are the reason why we destroyed our own world, right? And so I like that that commentary of we're gonna start afresh. You are that hope and that new light, so to speak. We can't come with you because of the baggage we carry, right?
Yeah. Well, and then not only that, but then when Clark interacts with him, as like this like sentient like I don't know, like droid or like a hologram, him him trying to explain, look, we did want you, we wanted you to learn and grow from them and see what was good, so that one day our people and their people could coexist.
So was that his plan all along? Was Jor-El's plan all along to not invade Earth, but to find a habitable planet where Kryptonians and whatever planet it was could coexist?
I think so. I mean, he was a scientist. He took the codex, right? If it was just his son, especially in this adaptation, that he wanted something better for his people. Mm-hmm. And like you said, he was a part of a failed society. And for his son to be saved and to have the potential to be the savior of his people, but also be like, because they knew that the earth had a young son, that he would be able to be like he would be a god among them.
Yeah.
Right. But then and to some degree, I think he sided with Jonathan, Kent's like ideal that like this was something that he would have to like on his own figure out how to like being this ideal person, or like be this person that was invulnerable, invincible. I mean, and be a miracle. Some people would look at him as a god, but at the end of the day, have to try to navigate, like understanding, like, hey, I have people that I can bring back, and why Zod's impact and his decision to destroy the ship
at the end, right? I think that's always what because he now then goes, I guess, he chooses, again, that theme of choice, he chooses to not follow through with Jor-El's plan.
Yeah.
In the end. And you have the birthing chamber that gets destroyed. And so going back to that quote from Jonathan Kent, like, you will have to make a choice. And that's going to have, ramifications, implications, good or bad, for this planet, for this earth. And I love that concept of choice. And I really enjoyed that they added that into the mythos of this Kryptonian society that has lost,
yes,
to a degree, their agency, their ability to function outside of what they were created for. And it's so cool. Again, going back to Krypton, it's so cool, like, yeah, the crystal like aesthetic from like the Christopher Reeves and like in the comic books, like it's cool and all, but like this is not, and it's such a, like you said, it's such a great way to introduce a different tone and mindset to this version of Superman.
I personally love it,
and I think, well, like they hired a linguist, like create a language for it, and a lot of it is like transcribed on his S, right? So like a lot of thought went into like the creation of Krypton, and I just think it's underappreciated.
Oh, dude, 100%
underappreciated. I love this prologue, so to speak.
To me, there's something. So you have in the notes like some of the things of like the choice. I think that like the idea of his Clark's journey of self-discovery and making choices and feeling like he doesn't have a destiny. But then finding that there was a purpose for him, and him trying to come to acceptance and to like introduce himself into like the world where the entire world is now like, okay, you are this, they want you, we're going to hand you over, and have that as like a human, like him as just like a human on earth, realizing that the entire world is like, you got to hand yourself over. Like, how could you not feel betrayed?
Right.
And not just think like, I've tried to be good. I've tried to do good my entire life.
And perhaps not necessarily betrayed, but get the confirmation that you're really not one of them, right?
You're right. Yeah.
Because throughout this whole movie, he's struggling. He's not sure. Like he's trying to figure out who he is. He doesn't fit in. He's different. And then for society, for Earth to say like, no, you got to turn yourself in. Then that's the kicker to him, that, okay, yeah, I really am not. Even though he goes and visits a priest, and the priest tells him, you just have to take a leap of faith. The trust happens after.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's for him saying like, okay, I've never fit in. I don't know if they like me here. They're telling me to turn myself in. Clearly they don't like me. I'm still going to take a leap of faith and see what happens.
But he also like understands that he's like, look, I can't trust people of Earth yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do this thing, and I do think I have to take a leap of faith. But it doesn't mean that my leap of faith has to be completely like with, what's the word I'm trying to like think about? It's like trying to he understands that he needs to take that leap, but at the same time he wants to help provide them the opportunity for them to take a leap.
Yeah. Because I love that line that he says, the priest is telling him like, or he tells the priest like, I don't think I trust the people of this earth.
Yeah.
Like I don't
To do the right thing.
To do the right thing, right? And I love that conflict from a young Superman, right?
Yeah.
We didn't, but the idea was we'll get to the point where Superman is loved and you know, and he has an appreciation for the people for him. But this Superman at this point doesn't have that, right? And he doesn't trust the people, which is fine.
Yeah.
We'll get that trust there later.
This movie, they really, it's tragic. Amy Adams as Lois Lane.
Awesome.
Truly, I think, helped bring the humanity, the hope for Clark in her. Right? Her character as a journalist trying to seek the truth, trying to find this mysterious man who saves her, who, like, you know, that, like, but also, like, part of this, you know, he's not of this earth. And then doing the work and then finding him. And having their conversation, and then like them not fully giving us the full disclosure on like what was agreed upon between the two, even though we know, but like there was something else that was like, you know, there was like a kindred of understanding.
Yeah.
And then having it completely ripped under them, and her, you know, thrust into the limelight of like, okay, she's the one that is the gatekeeper for this individual, right? Amy Adams' performance, highly, I don't know if it's underrated, but like, I don't think she gets enough credit for this.
She is so good in this. She brings, like you said, that humanity and pulls that humanity out of Clark, right? And she is so good at delivering her emotions, her depth to her character. Yeah, right. There's a lot that goes without being said to us as the audience, but we believe it because there's that. She brings such a sincerity and honestness to Lois.
Yeah,
I think she's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like truly sad that they just jumped right into Batman versus Superman. I mean, I was excited, you know, like when it first came out. Like I was like, dude, freaking yes, we're gonna get Batman versus Superman. But every time I rewatch this film, I'm like, I'm a little saddened that we didn't get another one where it's like.
Another solo of him.
And mellowed down. He's just Clark, like a stringer for a news station, trying to figure things out. You know, and Lois understanding who he is, him having to, you know, battle that like little weird dynamic that is so quirky for Superman.
That's true. Yeah, I think my not an issue. My one criticism about Lois and how she was written, yes, Lois would figure out, and she always figures out that Clark is Superman, right? But I just felt like it was done way too fast. Like
in this one,
yeah, and we're ripped away from that interaction of like of Lois and Clark, trying to figure out. We're ripped away. That's neither here nor there. That's not what this movie was, set up for. But I miss that.
Yeah, it is a little. I mean, it would have been nice to have like Man of Steel. Maybe it was more slightly different, right? We're doing another Reel Chums rewrite. Because imagine a three arc movie.
I've imagined this.
Oh, give it to me. I want to hear it.
No, I think you don't have her find that. I think you have her gain that trust of Superman, saying that there is an alien among us. I don't know who he is.
Right.
Okay. But you have the Superman Lois relationship. In the second movie, right? They continue to build on that.
Is Zod in the first? He's still okay.
Yeah. Let's keep Zod.
Yep.
In the second one, you continue to build on top of that. But then you introduce Brainiac, okay, who this AI that managed to upload himself into other ways of survival, and continues to challenge Superman's identity and Superman's purpose on Earth. Not necessarily a rehash, but Brainiac is an all-powerful, all-knowing AI that also, like Zod, has Krypton's purpose in mind. And then but you have a Superman that has learned his lesson of, no, I'm here for the people.
Yeah.
Right. And I will fight for the people. And hopefully in this movie, you build that tension between Lois and Clark, and you have more of that romantic element. I'm just a sucker for like the Lois and Clark.
Oh, me too.
Romance.
I
am.
Well, and I'm not gonna lie, Henry Cavill and Amy, I don't know. I felt like they had really great chemistry.
They had great chemistry.
And I'm saddened that we didn't get more of it. Or that, anyways, that would have been great. That would have been great. I would have loved that.
And then in the third movie, you introduce Lex Luthor in the second one, right?
Yep.
But in the third movie, you really see Lex Luthor come into big play.
Yeah.
Superman has stood up for this world, for its people, and you have one individual who has such influence, such a strong presence among humanity that wants to take him down, right? And that's where you see him continue to struggle of, am I doing the right thing for these people?
Yeah. I'm excited for the new Superman Legacy. I feel pretty confident that I feel hopeful. Let me say that. I feel hopeful that they're going to do a really great job.
Yeah, I think so. I'm hopeful. I'm excited for it. I think, again, James Gunn, in our last episode, but
yeah.
But I think James Gunn will do a great job. I really think so. I think he
cares about the characters.
He cares about the characters.
He cares about what they're doing. He cares about giving us meaningful stories. He cares about wanting to make it feel rewarding for us as viewers. And that's all we can ask for.
And I think he has, now that he has done, his trilogy with Guardians, I think he learned about where do I want my characters to go at the end of this, right? I think I'm hoping he has a better understanding of the end from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? And writing to that. Maybe not knowing all the little details, but he always talked about, like, he had an idea that the ending of Guardians was going to be rocket focused, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's just him talking PR nonsense, but I think he's learned that you do need to have some kind of end insight.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that once the third one comes out, then we're done with Superman. But like having an idea, mapped out idea of where you want your characters to go.
Do you feel like the darker tone, the the crazy destruction, as well as like in with that the like broodingness of Clark and Superman, or because it's just Clark, it's Clark's broodiness, and Superman's coming to, like, where do you feel on that? Because I know that's a lot of people's perhaps like hiccups with it, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about like this Superman, when he is introduced to the world, he's introduced in handcuffs, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like he's introduced he comes into a space where he's being forced to come in.
Yeah,
his hands are tied, metaphorically speaking, but. And I mean, to me, every time I think about it, I'm like, I would feel a little betrayed about the their him. And what I truly appreciate is the like two-way mirror scene. Mm-hmm. He's with Lois and everyone's like there. He just like lets them know.
I can see.
He's like, you are not in control.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do it. Like, and I think his little interaction with Lois, like, she's like, you let him put handcuffs, like whatever makes him feel safe.
Yeah, whatever makes him feel safe.
Yeah.
I love that this Superman is working to gain that trust, right?
Yeah.
And because he's put into a situation where, his hands are tied, but like he has no options. So he has to win them over. In other movies or in other versions, he wins them over by a montage of him doing good things, right?
Yes.
Saving the dog or saving a falling helicopter, whatever it is. In this movie, he that's not the situation that he's put in.
Yeah.
He has to win them over by, handcuff me, sure. I'm going to tell you, though, that, like, you're not in control. You have to trust me just like I'm going to trust you. But there has to be some kind of mutual agreement here, right? And I love that scene where he's in that two-way mirror. I think maybe my complaint is more and I need to isolate my discussion of this movie not thinking about Batman versus Superman and Justice League, right? But like, I think when I first watched this, I was like, yeah, like sure, he's that broodiness of him of Clark comes from him growing up unsure of himself, not sure what he wanted to accomplish. Now he knows who he is, and if you see him at the end of the movie, like he's Clark, like this is a Clark that's more confident of who he is as a human being and what he's wanting to achieve and approach his objectives. So yeah, there is those darker tones. I don't want to say grounded tones, because grounded is such a giveaway, but I really appreciate the direction that the movie took with this characterization of Clark.
I agree. I think when it comes to Superman and Clark's characterization, I think they did a phenomenal job. I think one of the last things before they cut to the title scene is he's like, why are you destroying my $21 million freaking surveillance? So he's like, well, you just got to trust me.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to convince Washington to trust me. And he's like, well, why? He's like, well, because I'm trusting you. You know, and then we go, you know, with that little scene of him coming in as the newspaper. He's like, well, how are you gonna, you know, well, I gotta get a job, which 100% is true.
Yeah.
Yes, you're a reporter. Literally, you gotta go do stories and you gotta go be in the thick of things and whatever. Which I still to this day love. In any case, to me, I think that the destruction that happened in this film is diminished because of the next couple movies. They don't like, it isn't, whereas The Blip causes a huge impact for Marvel. 5 years, people gone, you know, like that whole thing is impactful. Right? This impact should have been like the huge, I mean, they kind of tried to do it with Bruce, him in the opening sequence and, you know, that whole sort of thing. It just wasn't enough, in my opinion.
Not just enough, but this has been my rewrite that I've held on to the last 10 years.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
I would have loved, keep it as is, that last scene when he's talking to Martha and they're visiting Jonathan Kent's burial site, right? She's talking about how your dad would have been so proud, blah, blah, blah. Look at the man that you grew up to be. And Clark, for him to say, like, yeah, like, he saw, like, he witnessed, whatever. However, Mom, I still caused all of this carnage.
Metropolis is hurting because of me.
Metropolis is hurting because of me. I also took a man's life. I would have loved just for him to, like, acknowledge what he did.
Yeah.
He does. I love the scene where, you know, he snaps him and he lets out that scream and so much anguish and pain. But, like, then we just move on, right? I would have loved for him to, like, carry that guilt, because his dad told him, no matter who you choose to be, good or bad, it's going to have implications, ramifications on you and on society, right? And I would have just loved for him to have just a simple line of, like, yeah, but look what I did. Look at the power that I have, and look what I caused to happen.
And perhaps have him try to redeem himself by never doing it again.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, doing everything he possibly can to, like, prevent, you know, whatever situation may, you know, come. Obviously, he's going to be able to, you know, he's Superman, he can do whatever. Like, he can stand in front of bullets and that sort of thing. But coming, you know, with, you know, even going to the next thing with Batman and having that be even more impactful when Batman's coming at him.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I like that. I agree.
I think that's just a good way to keep, like, audiences, like, happy, maybe. I think a lot of people were just pissed, like he does self-destruction. He has, like, no remorse. And it's not that he doesn't have remorse. It's just that it's not acknowledged.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
100%.
And I think as a screenwriter, you could have just added a line or two to have your character acknowledge what he's done, the power he possesses, and just it's like a little wink to the audience, like, hey, we know he did this, like, but he's gonna grow and he's gonna be better, right? I think that's just one way they could have kept.
I feel like
audiences at bay.
Yeah, I feel like Bruce kind of carries the, like, in Superman v Batman. They tried to bring Bruce in the fact that, like, he was the one that's trying to. He's like, he wants to keep him in check.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We'll eventually get there.
We'll eventually get there.
All right.
Are we on time? I could keep talking about this.
Me too. I mean, we're right up on time. I could keep talking about this. I think ultimately, this. Okay, I want to finish. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to talk about Sod real quick.
Yes.
Michael Shannon is incredible.
Dude, incredible.
He is so good. He brings such a menacing aspect to his character. And again, a lot of it goes back to him being, engineered to just be a soldier and protect Krypton, which is what makes a great character. Like, a good character is one that has a good villain is one that has a purpose and an objective that they feel is right and pure and righteous. Yeah. Right? I just think he's so threatening. He's so good.
I think the set design, costume design with them. I love their oxygen masks that come up and then turns black. Like, I mean, we can get this. Does it fully hold up with CG? But you know what? I don't care because I'm committed. Yeah. And like the fights hurt. Like watching these fights, and not only that, but like watching them. There's a scene where Fiora or whatever wrecks a whole squad unit of freaking Marines or soldiers, and it's like flicking flies. Yeah, and that to me is like, ooh,
I love the action. I love those sequences of like really showing what these superpowered beings can squat and destroy these humans.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when is it in Infinity War? You remember the guy in Marvel who's got like the rings, and there's like Doctor Strange is fighting him, Iron Man fights him, Spider-Man's involved. He's like Thanos' like.
Oh, is he like the bald guy?
Yeah. He's got yeah.
Yeah, what's his name?
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay. So that whole scene, it felt similar. Like they had a similar like standoff where like superpower beings versus other super beings, and like they're kicking the Thanos is like crew. He's like got 3 people, right? They're like there, and the Hulk is fighting the big dude. Anyways, that whole sequence was good. But then when I compare it to this sequence. Not like the brutality.
The brutality, yeah.
That's the thing, and I understand like there's a level of like Marvel, and they're trying to like keep it like whatever. But I think if you're gonna have a character like Thanos who's gonna destroy the world, and he's got a crew who's like his A-list crew coming in to achieve something, they tried to make him brutal. But when I compare it to Superman and General Zod's crew, they're like freaking playing patty cake. Yeah. And there's something to be said about the level of threat to the level of like the villain and their commitment.
Oh, 100%. There are times still when I watch this movie in those scenes where I go like, I feel like, that had to hurt. Yes. And like, I love that. I love that brutality and just rawness in their fighting style, right? Yeah. It is so aggressive. It is so raw. And like, there are times where I just go like, that hurt. Like if I was there.
No, they're dead. They're dead.
It's really cool. I want to talk about this actually. Like now that we're talking about the villains, it'll be interesting to see how they bring these characters back in the Flash.
I know.
Because I feel like Michael Shannon or Sod's purpose in doing what he's doing it sits really well with me. And he has gone on to say that in the Flash the purpose is different. And that kind of is like
I know
that concerns me.
But could it be that it's just a place that they can come colonize? Like there is no there's no Clark, there is Kara. Yes, Kara. Just thinking of like freaking the Airbender. Anyways, no, we have the Flash. It could be that he's coming to colonize, and they're like they've decided to try to save Krypton by finding a planet that's habitable. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I just think it's something that is. Oh, and then I'm excited to see how they play her character in a world that like, she comes in, like, we know she's like trapped. She's like a prisoner. Mm-hmm. And like, that could have been Clark.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really excited for Flash. Like, I'm trying to like, I'm trying to manage my expectations.
I've muted everything on Twitter. I don't want to know anything more. Like, I'm just keeping it down here. Yeah. But I'm excited for it.
I'm excited. I don't expect it to be okay. I want to end with this. Where do you rank this?
In the DCEU?
No, just rank it as a superhero movie.
I give this a solid like 7.5. I really enjoy this movie. I think here's the thing. I think I had given it a higher rating when it came out, but now knowing what has happened in the last decade, I think
it is what it is.
But as its own movie, had there not been any others, I think I would give this a solid 8 to an 8.5.
I would too. I would do that as well. I think this movie could possibly go up in like some of the best comic book movies.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they took Superman where they took him, and they gave us. They gave us Krypton.
They gave us. I always loved the approach that this is a alien invasion movie with a superhero in it.
Yes.
Right? Like, I love that approach. And when you see it like that, it is frightening. It is scary. It is a different take than what we've seen Superman in.
Yeah. Well, that's what Iron Man sees. He sees this alien invasion.
Yeah.
And he's terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that what they did is they easily, the world engine threatening the entire world, seeing this spaceship, the entire world looking to Superman and realizing, what is he going to do?
Yeah.
And wanting him to do something so that they can save their own asses. But at the end of the day, he comes in and he says, just have a little faith. I'm giving faith in you. And let's see what happens. And I agree. I think that like the one thing that could have made this a solid, like almost a perfect film, if they acknowledged that he realized that despite being who he is as a being, as a Kryptonian on Earth, mm-hmm. and being powerful, being strong, being something that could be hopeful for people, that he perhaps personally is still flawed because he had to kill a person.
Yeah.
And thousands of people possibly died due to his people.
Due to his heritage.
Yeah.
Who he is, right? Yeah. It's a good movie. I enjoy it. I love it. Henry Cavill's awesome. It's a shame we won't see him again. It really is. Look, say what you will about the DCEU.
Say what you will.
But Zack Snyder and team knew how to cast.
They did. They knew how to cast, and there's something to be said about not only knowing how to cast, but just telling your own story.
Yeah.
Telling your own story. Yes, some of these films they just struggled, but if you look at the characters, every single time I watch them and I think about them as like these little snippets of like a film, they did some phenomenal job with character design, or with character development, character design, individual casting, and the way that each of those characters were casted impacted each of the like performances.
Yeah.
And it is something I wish would have worked, because it would have killed. It should have killed, but because of bureaucracy
and freaking bureaucrats, man. And we'll talk about this next week.
Yes.
But yes, because of bureaucracy, we are where we are.
We are. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we would love it if you liked it and you like our commentary, to consider subscribing on YouTube, or to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you are so inclined and love our show, let us know why with a couple stars, whether that be 1, 3, or 5.
More importantly, we want to hear from you. What is it that you like about Man of Steel? What is it that you don't like about Man of Steel? It came out 10 years ago. How do you feel about it? We want to hear from you. You can always get in touch with us via, hold on. Leave that in. No, just kidding. Via email at Reel Chums, or connect with us on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube at Reel Chums. You can follow me and Danny. I'm on Twitter at Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
And I'm Rubio_TV. Join us next week as we discuss the DC universe. And it's as our first breakdown episode. This is gonna be a big deal. Marcel has been late night plotting, writing, rewriting. He's got, he hasn't shown me to me, but I'm sure he's got one of those crazy like walls with like red lines.
With red lines
and it's just like
drawing.
Like with the question mark, what happened?
Big old question mark. Why are we here? So join us. It's going to be an awesome episode. Maybe I'm hyping it up too much, but I'm really excited about this episode.
We're gonna do everything we can to make it the best it can be.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys.
See ya.